So I saw a DJ the other day ask on an online forum, what is the biggest complaint that people have about DJs? There were lots of answers. And I certainly have one of my own that I can share with you right now if you'd like. Hi, I'm Bill. This is Creative License, and thanks again for being a part of my little dog and pony show once a week. So what is the biggest complaint about DJs today? Well, the one that I hear the most is that DJs and most wedding vendors have poor communication skills. I guess I don't really understand that, because I was raised by a father who was very, very pushy about being sure that you are understood and that you understand other people, that you're clear, that you can be concise when necessary. And being clear and concise and helpful with your communication is just being a good citizen. But the thing I don't understand about it in the wedding industry is that you're dealing with people that are paying that have probably never, ever done this before. So their level of communication is pretty high. In other words, they need a pretty high level of communication. And the only thing I can come to is that the generation now, between the ages of 17 and maybe 30, right? They were people that weren't really taught communication. They learned it with their phones. They had those phones in their hand from birth. And not getting back to somebody quickly with a text is not necessarily a big deal to many of them. But it is when you're buying a thing, when you're spending money on a thing. And it's not that hard to do. The most basic, better communication you can do is to respond quickly to people that are reaching out to you, especially if they've already hired you to do the event, okay? If they've hired you, if they've given you a retainer or a deposit, and you're not getting back to them, all you're doing is creating doubt and worry in their mind and making them to be a client that's going to be difficult later. That's going to be on you. And it's horrible for them because they don't know. They just need to hear from you so that they feel confident that they chose the right person and that you heard them and whatever is necessary, right? So that's an easy one, right? Get back to people quickly. Get back to people and give them what they need. But another part of this is that being a good listener, or rather being a good communicator, is really more about being a good listener. We don't, as a rule, listen very well. Okay, and if you don't believe me, just listen to the little voice in your head right now while you listen to this, thinking, do I like this? Do I know this? Have I heard this? Is he right? Is he wrong? Do I agree? Do I disagree? That little voice is going on in your head. And while that's happening, you're not listening very well. Okay, you might be hearing my words, but you may not hear exactly what I'm trying to say. And most people are not real good at communicating what they want to a DJ or to a wedding vendor because they've never done this before. They're not using your language. They're using theirs. So listening in a way that you can hear exactly why they're calling, what they're really worried about, because it's hardly ever about the fact that they're calling because they thought of a song and they want to be sure you get back to them that you heard that they like this song. No, they're worried about something else, all right? And if you don't call back and say, really, Elton John and Kiki D, you love that song. Why do you love that song? And all you do is say, nope, put it on the list. Okay, that's one level of listening. The other is, why do you like that song? Why is it important? Why are you worried about putting an extra song on the list right now? Were you at a wedding? What was going on? Listen to them. In other words, instead of rattle a bunch of those questions off, ask a question and listen for those answers. You need to hear what people really are trying to communicate to you, because it's hardly ever about what they called about. And once they get that you can hear them, that you've been listening, and once they understand that you care enough to get back to them and respond to it, you don't need to have an answer. You don't. The answer could be, I have no idea, but I'll do my best for you. That's good enough for a client who spent a lot of money or is about to spend a lot of money on a day that they'll never, ever get back, and spending more money on a day than they've ever spent in their life. Be a better communicator, and you can be not as good a DJ. Believe that or not. And I get into that in another day in another video. Tell me what you think in the comments below. This is Bill. This is Creative License, and I'll see you next week.